Okay, Ruthless fans, so we have here Season 3, Episode 4, The Queen to Be. Actually, the highest to be. 7 out of 10. I know that the episode had moments where it felt, I think maybe the second half was better than the first half, but to me, this was a great episode. I feel mainly because the Sistas mid-season finale was just so bad that Ruthless is now feeling like a breath of fresh air. And several people were telling me, hey Jeremy, I know you've been feeling a certain way about the show since season 2, but I think it would help, and I know it's difficult for you because you're an overthinker and you love continuity, but I know some people who have said that they've enjoyed Ruthless more when they've kind of, and I even said this way back in season 1, but yeah, that was a while ago. If you treat the show as standalone, despite the fact that it's still connected to the Oval, you will enjoy it a lot more. And yeah, it does help. And I think maybe because the Oval is going to be off the air for, I don't know how long. Because remember, the season finale for season 3 of the Oval is next Tuesday. And I wonder if it's going to be off the air for as long as Sistas will be. Only time will tell. Maybe we'll find out. But I feel like we have some interesting setup. This episode really did establish that, yeah, the first 3 episodes were, planting the seeds. Or, excuse me, the first 3 episodes were like rearranging the pieces on the chessboard. And now, we have a number of people who are in different positions. And those who are in power are no longer in power. It kind of reminds me of the haves and the have-nots in a sense, where the have-nots have become the haves and vice versa, due to the fact that, one person can be on top one season, but then they're at the bottom in the middle of that same season or sometimes the next season. Not everybody maintains the same level of control and power. But again, despite the fact of me trying not to, harp on the continuity and timeline, we know that Daikon is still around later on, given the fact that he was the one that had Barry abducted and Ruth was there as well. So it's like, Daikon, is he still the right-hand man? I don't know. But let's talk about this particular episode. So obviously, we had the cliffhanger last week where Sheriff Connolly is standing there with a gun pointed at Brian. Turns out, yes, everything Tally said was true. He's been getting a sizable amount of money from the Rakadushi to kind of clean things up, if you will, or hush money. Like, whenever something happens in the community and that's Rakadushi affiliated, he pretty much covers it up and whatnot. I remember something like this, a red flag. I think it was, what was it? Season 1, where Ruth and Tally, yeah, well, this was like early season 1, where Daikon literally hit Tally, causing the car to crash. This is after they had just abducted Callie, by the way. And then Ruth and I think Tally went to Dale's parents' house to like steal a truck, and it got a bit damaged. And Herbert, he wanted the Rakadushi to pay for it, 'cause I think Daikon was the one that came back to pretty much rectify the situation, but payment never came. And I think that the sheriff said that, hey, I'll go, because I think Herbert was like, Sheriff Conley, if you don't go up there, if nobody, if that Daikon fella doesn't pay me back for the damages to my truck, I'm going to go up to the compound myself, and I'm going to raise some hell. But the Conley was like, no, don't worry, I'll go up there and get the payment. And basically what happened was the sheriff actually gave the money to Herbert for the damages, and Brian was like, well, hey, if you're going to the compound, I'll go with you. And that's the thing, because the sheriff knows that people going up to the compound isn't a good thing, because it makes the Rakadushi members all fidgety and whatnot. So in order to avoid trouble, he probably took some of his own hush money to give to Dale's parents, so they'll back off. You know what? Thank you, Conley. Because I was about to take some robes and, strangle these people messing up my truck. And if another Brackadooshy member comes by, I want to blow their head off. And, well, you know, he had the gun on Lacey and Paula last time, and, well, we saw what happened to them. Well, actually, Dale's parents, but he did get that one shot off on Paula in the shoulder, if I remember correctly. So, basically, they're talking about the Brian situation, and sheriff reveals that Brian is FBI. And something else of importance to think about is that, well, the sheriff reveals that every time Brian thought he was calling Mac, the calls got scrambled. That's kind of interesting. I guess that's only when he's in the sheriff's office using the sheriff's line, you know, well, the line in the police station, because there are a bunch of times that, you know, Brian was on the phone with Mac. So I guess it doesn't work if, you know, Brian is in the, you know, deputy car driving around, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, Brian is on his own. He really is on his own right now. And Daikon pretty much, you know, is wondering, wait, if he's FBI, why didn't you tell us sooner? And, you know, the sheriff was like, you know, hey, well, I didn't want to say anything because that would blow a lot of things. And, you know, well, can't be messing up my money, right? But the thing about that is Andrew actually rolls up. And remember, you got the sheriff, you got Daikon, you got Manny, you got some soldiers, and now Andrew came, and Oliver's in the truck. So Oliver's in custody, if you will, the Rakadooshi. And Daikon asks if Andrew knows him. Brian's like, nope. The only time I've seen him is when he came to the compound with the sheriff back in season 1. Now, the sheriff is not sure of how he'll spin the story with Dale's folks, because it's gotten to the point where it's like, well, can the sheriff, you know, I guess you could say, is the sheriff going to be killed off at some point by the Rakadooshi because his usefulness is no longer, you know, he's no longer useful to them? Because remember, he's like, hey, I didn't think things were going to get this intense. I don't know how I'm going to spin the story. Theory time. Well, speaking of continuity, we know that Dale, like he said, I packed up threw all my stuff in my truck and drove out of Rockwell and came to DC. Given that the sheriff at the moment doesn't seem to know how to make a story of Herbert and Liz being killed, what if the sheriff concocts a story that Dale killed his parents, and then Dale finds out about this, and that's why he goes on the run and he goes to DC? Just saying, because the town knows that, you know, Dale and his parents are estranged because he's gay, and perhaps a cover story could be, you know, he went over there and, you know, his parents got into a fight with him and then he shot them both, and that's hey, I'm just saying that could be a cover story. Just saying. So inside of the house, Paula and Lacey are still there, and they come up with the idea, or actually on the outside, Daikon and everybody else like, look, send the sheriff to the house because because there are 2 girls inside. Send the sheriff to the house because if Daikon goes up there, they're not going to trust him. So sheriff is sent in, and before he gets there, Paula and Lacey, the plan is Paula is going to lie low, and when the coast is clear, you're going to take these keys, get in the truck, go to a hospital, get out of here. So it's sad, but at least one of the members make it out, and they do, and she does. Paula does get in the truck and go. Hopefully her wound was what's the term, castrated, or, you know, to the point where, well, thankfully she was only shot in the shoulder as opposed to like the side or something. So hopefully she's able to make it to where she needs to go to get, you know, help and go on the run. But who knows? Maybe she'll be back someday, or, you know, at least somebody on the outs. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, aside from Tally, who we know eventually makes it to Nancy and Richard's house before she offs herself, at least that's one of the few members we've seen actually successfully get away. So that's interesting. And on top of that, well, Lord, the truck, well, yeah, Paula took the truck. Do you think they'd try to pull, it's like, yeah, Dale killed his parents and stole the truck? Maybe. But regardless, Lacey says, you know, I'll take the blame for shooting Dale's, these 2 people, even though I didn't do it or whatever. But so, yeah, Lacey gets captured. So Andrew calls the highest to let him know, hey, sir, Paul, you know, we got Oliver and we got Lacey. And I think that Lacey's cover story was, you know, yeah, Paula, she got away because we did it to try to misdirect you. So Paula's gone, and now Lacey and Oliver, the lovers, are back together, and they are in the punishment trailer. I think that if I remember correctly, Brian was hogtied on one of the four-wheelers, and he's brought back to the compound as well. Interestingly enough, inside of the punishment trailer, I think Brian reveals that, hey, I got a knife in my sock, and Oliver's like, what we gonna do with that little knife? They got guns out there. But it's interesting to see how you have, Oliver, who's like a street dude, from all the gangs and everything he's been in. And then you got Brian, who's an FBI agent. So it's interesting to see kind of a clash of their ideas of how to make a plan. And, not to go full geek mode here, but it reminds me of Avengers Infinity War when Tony Iron Man was talking with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's trying to come up with a plan on how to take care of Thanos or get the stones as soon as Thanos comes to Titan. And then Star-Lord and his team that's not how they operate. They kind of fly off the seat of their pants, but at the same time, Peter Quill is a tactical genius, even though he doesn't come across as one. So it's interesting how things played out, and Peter Quill's plan did work for the most part until he screwed up. But I do find it interesting to see the same kind of dynamic here, where you have somebody, like Brian, who's, law enforcement trained versus somebody with street smarts. And I don't think it takes that much of a genius to say, Brian, look, the knife thing is a good, strategy. But remember, they got guns out there. We ain't trying to die. Why do you think we escaped? So from there, I guess most of the conversation is to focus on the compound. I think that's why I kind of like this episode, because we really got to showcase characters we really haven't seen at the forefront in a while, being, like Brian and the sheriff. And yeah, I know there are characters who really need more spotlight, like Lynn. I'll never forget, what was it, the season 2 finale, where Lynn called Daikon when he was on the search for Tally. And it took me a moment to like, who the freak is Lynn? Because she had been gone for so long that I forgot all about her. But in any case, what we have at this point is Ruth is to become the wife of the highest because of a prophecy that's being given in the episode. I believe episode 3 was called Prepare the Throne, and in this episode, this is when we have the prophecy. And it gets in, most of what I have to talk about now is how the remainder or the other parts of the episode are all about the power shifts and balances, moving from one person to the next. So Elder Mother is still hating, pretty much she is not really a person who likes her position being threatened or her duties being given to other people. But there are some interesting scenes here. For example, she's talking with the other Elder Mother. If her name has been dropped, I literally did not take notice. I might have to look at the, well, do they? No, they don't have, they have end credits, but I don't really pay attention to those. She's talking with another Elder Mother, basically learns that Elder Agnes was killed, and it was done by a couple of the other girls. And at that point, they realize, hey, we have to be careful how we talk to these little girls, because they're becoming, full-blown women now, and, they can fight back. And it's interesting because from there we have Elder Mother talking with Zane about the situation with Melinda, and that the fact that she was probably doing something unholy or unnatural, and that's why she met such a grim fate. So I feel like this conversation was important to have, between Zane and Elder Mother, at least from Elder Mother's perspective, because Zane is being given an elder teacher position, where Zane's going to kind of be in charge of teaching some of the younger girls as the new recruits come into the compound at some point. From there, we get Ruth talking to the highest, in regards to not only the wife position she will soon be filling, but the fact that River needs to be protected from Daikon. And I do think that's interesting, because Ruth kind of vouches for him, saying, hey, he's a good kid, because the highest actually asked Ruth, hey, how do you feel about River being around? And then from there, Ruth talks to the highest, or excuse me, Ruth and River have a conversation about, like, look, hey, I vouch for you, but when you go up in there, because the highest wants to see you, when you go up in there, you better tell him about why you were in the money trailer and whatnot. That way Daikon doesn't tell him first. So it's interesting, because you got, River acting like a little kid, being spun around. It's like, You know, River, after the prophecy, I'd like to come back in here and watch old movies with you. I'm sorry. Yes, your highest. So this fool is eating it up. From there, we get to the point where Ruth and Joan have their little, their every episode discussion, and Joan is asking about, your confidence being shifted because are you having sex with the highest? If you don't get your spelling bee ass out of my face. Because I think the reason she said it is because of how Joan speaks is like a spelling bee contestant. Spell apple. A-P-P-L-E. Apple. And then Joan is like, hello, Sister Elder Ruth. How are you? To get your spelling bee ass out my face. Again, sometimes even when an episode has a lackluster lull of maybe 10 minutes, a character will say one line and I'm like, damn it, you got me. It's like, I don't know. Is it because sometimes the episodes are so dull that the one-liners stand out? Or is it because the one-liners are just so damn good? You just gotta run with it. But regardless, Ruth actually, I think this is when she's taking back the highest, plates and whatnot once he finished eating his dinner or breakfast for dinner. And he realizes, then she realized, what the hell is this in the plate? And then Elder Mother reveals, oh, there's some narcotics and candy, aka, happy pills in there. And Ruth is telling her not to put that in the highest food anymore. And the Elder Mother's like, hey, this is to calm him down. And an argument could be made that, Ruth, maybe that's the best thing that could happen, because every time the highest gets off his rocker, he gets the boy or he gets Daikon or whoever else to hook him up to, his happy juice, and he's put under for a while. I mean, if he didn't have these drugs in the system to even him out, what exactly would this dude be like? I don't think we want to find out. So, that's an interesting topic of discussion. Do you think the highest doesn't need the drugs, or do you think he's better with them? So, from there, we go over to the prophecy. The congregation is together. The highest is on his throne. He mentions or brings up, his marriage, upcoming nuptials with Ruth. And Daikon is probably, this is where I'm just laughing my ass off, because for first of all, he's stunned that the highest started the prophecy without him there by his side, because remember, he had just come back, with Andrew and Brian, Lacey, and Oliver and whatnot. Then sorry, I skipped over this. When River was talking with the highest said, hey, you'll be my new right hand, just don't tell Daikon. And it's like, again, we're having different power dynamics and shift, and yet the highest kind of knows what he's doing, because he knows to tell River not to tell Daikon, because Daikon will get jealous. But it's like, well, you know how this situation is going to go when he finds out. But then the thing is, Elder Mother's called forward, and she's going to be made the supreme mother, being that her only duties will be to cook, whereas all the younger girls can start taking a more physical, active role. And at first she doesn't want it, because it's like, well, I don't want anyone doing these things for you except for me. But then she accepts it, and to actually see her sit beside Ruth and smile, it's like, wow, this is interesting. So the thing is, I don't know what was a bigger blow, the fact that Daikon finds out, he's losing more and more power and being replaced slowly but surely. And think of it this way, Elder Mother at least got a new title, whereas Daikon is like pushed in the corner. And then he finds out Ruth is getting married to the highest, which I find hilarious, because what was it? Not too long ago, he found out that Ruth and the highest were having sex, and then he's like, well, who's better? Now it's like, oh shit, they're gonna get married. So what's the situation going to be like from this point forward? Only time will tell. But I thought this was a decent episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with my theory about Dale possibly being pinned for murdering his parents, and that's why he goes on the run to DC and becomes a member of the Oval? Any other thoughts or moments from the episode that I did not elaborate on, but you wanted me to give my 2 cents on? Feel free to let me know. And from there, hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description. Hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. I do hope that episode 5 will be maybe an 8 out of 10 instead of a 7 out of 10, just to show that the show is improving as it goes on. But so far, I have been rocking with this season. The main thing I didn't like was episode 1, where that naked boy was being taken around the compound by Elder Mother on a chain. But other than that, I pretty much enjoyed it.